The Forest Stewardship Council is an international non-profit, multi-stakeholder organization established in 1993 to promote responsible management of the world's forests. The FSC does this by setting standards on forest products, along with certifying and labeling them as eco-friendly. Purpose: the FSC's stated mission is to promote environmentally appropriate, socially beneficial and economically viable management of the world's forests. To this end, the body has published a global strategy with 5 goals: advancing globally responsible forest management, ensure equitable access to the benefits of FSC systems, ensure integrity, credibility and transparency of the FSC system, create business value for products from FSC-certified forests, strengthen the global network to deliver on goals 1 through 4. These goals are being promoted by activities which are managed and developed through 6 program areas: forests, chain of custody, social policy, monitoring and evaluation, quality assurance and ecosystem services. It claims that forests managed to its standards offer benefits to both local and wider communities, and these are said to include cleaner air and water, and a contribution to mitigating the effects of climate change. Directly or indirectly, FSC addresses issues such as illegal logging, deforestation and global warming, and some reports indicate positive effects on economic development, environmental conservation, poverty alleviation and social and political empowerment. Using the FSC logo signifies that the product comes from responsible sources, environmentally appropriate, socially beneficial and economically viable. The FSC label is used on a wide range of timber and non-timber products, from paper and furniture to medicine and jewelry, and aims to give consumers the option of supporting responsible forestry. History: according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, half of the world's forests have already been altered, degraded, destroyed or converted into other land uses. Much of the remaining forests today suffer from illegal exploitation and otherwise poor management. FSC was established as a response to these concerns over global deforestation. Tropical deforestation as a global concern rose to prominence in the 1980s and can be somewhat attributed to a fight for action by environmentalists and northern countries over the need to protect tropical woodland. Prior to this, a number of other economic and regulatory mechanisms such as financial aid, policy frameworks and trade conventions were established in the fight against deforestation. These include the International Tropical Timber Agreement, the Convention of International Trade on Endangered Species and the Global Environment Facility. Despite the increased level of concern on the run-up to the 1992 Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, tensions between the North and the Global South over access to finance and technology for the preservation of forests protracted negotiations. Although many northern countries had hoped for a legally binding convention, the resulting statement of forest principles represents the mean position of the lowest common denominator and is voluntary. Disappointed with the outcome of the Earth Summit, NGOs such as the Worldwide Fund for Nature began to turn their attention to industry for a more meaningful governance-orientated resolution to the problem of deforestation. In the lead-up to the Earth Summit, social groups, NGOs and industries were also beginning to consult on the issue of deforestation. In America, the consultation process that eventually led to the establishment of the FSC was initiated in 1990 and concluded in the confirmation of support for the development of a voluntary worldwide certification and accreditation governance system that would cover all forest types. In the UK, NGO WWF began to facilitate action through the establishment of the 1995 group, recruiting organizations that had been spurred on by instances of direct action and boycotting over the sale of tropical wood to foreman. NGO business partnership. Through stakeholder involvement, it became apparent that a standard-setting body would be required to verify the source of wood products and define sustainable forest management. After 18 months of consultation in 10 different countries, the Forest Stewardship Council was finally established in 1993. The failure of governments to reach any notable form of consensus in the form of an internationally reaching and legally binding agreement caused both disillusionment and an opportunity for change through the involvement of civil society and business actors to form soft law. As such, the establishment of the Forest Stewardship Council as the response to this disillusionment also represents a global shift from government to governance, and its creation is a primary example of the use of market and economic factors to create movement on a global environmental issue. The evolving historical context in which the FSC was formed is theorized to reflect a much broader skepticism towards state power and, as a consequence, a shift away from traditional state-centric forms of regulation. That said, although the FSC transcends national boundaries, the state continues to play a part in the regulatory landscape of the domestic forest, and as such the FSC must develop appropriate domestic governance to reflect this structure and governance. FSC is an international membership organization with a governance structure based on participation, democracy, equity and transparency. It is a platform for forest owners, timber industries, social groups and environmental organizations to come together to find solutions to improve forest management practices. It is governed by its members, who join either as individuals or as representatives of organizations. They come from diverse backgrounds, including environmental NGOs, the timber trade, community forest groups and forest certification organizations. Members apply to join one of 3 chambers: environmental, social and economic. Each chamber is divided into northern and southern sub-chambers, and votes are weighted to ensure that north and south each have 50%. This system is designed to ensure that influence is shared equally between different interest groups, without having to limit the number of members. FSC has 3 levels of decision-making bodies: the General Assembly, the Board of Directors and the Executive Director. The General Assembly, which takes place every 3 years, is made up of the 3 membership chambers and is the highest decision-making body in FSC. The most recent General Assembly took place in 2014. Every member has the right to attend, formulate and submit motions, and vote. The General Assembly represents an opportunity for everybody to share, learn, establish new alliances and exchange and explore business opportunities to create a better future of the forests. The FSC Board of Directors is accountable to the FSC members. It is made up of 9 elected individuals who are FSC members and advocates. 1 member of the Board of Directors is elected from each sub-chamber of the General Assembly. The Executive Director runs FSC on a day-to-day basis with the support of a multicultural professional team at the FSC International Center. He or she is accountable to the FSC Board of Directors. While the FSC International Center is based in Bonn, Germany, it has a decentralized network of FSC network partners that promote responsible forest management on behalf of FSC. FSC network partners include FSC national offices, FSC national representatives and FSC national focal points. Standards, certification and accreditation. Standards development. FSC is a global forest certification system established for forests and forest products. From the perspective of the WWF, this voluntary mechanism can be regarded as one of the more interesting initiatives of the last decade to promote better forest management. While a number of alternative national and regional forest certification bodies also exist around the globe, it has 10 principles and associated criteria that form the basis for all FSC forest management standards and certification. FSC International sets the framework for developing and maintaining international, national and subnational standards. This is intended to ensure that the process for developing FSC policies and standards is transparent, independent and participatory. In February 2012, the membership approved the first major revision to the FSCP and AMP-C in order to bring its certification up to date. The review and revision of the FSCP and AMP-C began in 2008 and gathered feedback from many FSC members and other stakeholders. This revision also marked the start of a process of developing baseline requirements for each of the revised criteria. These requirements, called international generic indicators, are intended to ensure consistent application of the FSCP and AMP-C across all countries. Where national standards are not currently established, the IGIs will be used as interim standards. Forest Management Certification. Forest management certification is a voluntary process for verifying responsible forest practices. It is up to a forest owner, or representative of a group of forest owners and operators, to initiate the certification process by requesting an independent certifier to inspect the forest and to see if the management meets the FSC requirements. Encapsulated in the FSCP and AMP-C, only an FSC-accredited certification body can evaluate, monitor and certify companies to FSC standards, and only continuous compliance can assure that certificate holders can keep the certificates. These holders are charged an annual fee to renew their accreditation. The FSCP and AMP-C apply to all tropical, temperate and boreal forests and many deplantations and partially replanted forests. They're mainly designed for forest management for timber products. They are also largely relevant for non-timber products and other environmental services such as clean water and air and carbon sequestration. The FSC principles are a complete package and the sequence does not represent an ordering of priority. Prior to the revision process, which ended in February 2012, the FSCP and AMP-C were the following. The revised P and AMP-C were approved in February 2012 but will not be used for audit until the FSC IGIs are also complete. The full text of the revised P and AMP-C can be found on the FSC website, but the basic principles are listed below. The organization shall comply with all applicable laws, regulations and nationally ratified international treaties, conventions and agreements. The organization shall maintain or enhance the social and economic well-being of workers. The organization shall identify and uphold indigenous peoples' legal and customary rights of ownership, use and management of land, territories and resources affected by management activities. The organization shall contribute to maintaining or enhancing the social and economic well-being of local communities. The organization shall efficiently manage the range of multiple products and services of the management unit to maintain or enhance long-term economic viability and the range of environmental and social benefits. The organization shall maintain, conserve and/or restore ecosystem services and environmental values of the management unit, and shall avoid, repair or mitigate negative environmental impacts. products. The organization shall have a management plan consistent with its policies and objectives and proportionate to scale, intensity and risks of its management activities. The management plan shall be implemented and kept up to date based on monitoring information in order to promote adaptive management. The associated planning and procedural documentation shall be sufficient to guide staff, inform affected stakeholders and interested stakeholders, and to justify management decisions. The organization shall demonstrate that progress towards achieving the management objectives. The impacts of management activities and the condition of the management unit are monitored and evaluated proportionate to the scale, intensity and risk of management activities in order to implement adaptive management. The organization shall maintain and/or enhance the high conservation values in the management unit through applying the precautionary approach. Management activities conducted by for the organization for the management unit shall be selected and implemented consistent with the organization's economic, environmental and social policies and objectives, and in compliance with the principles and criteria collectively. FSC-accredited certification bodies certify and audit each individual forest management operation. If the forest management is in full compliance with FSC requirements, the FSC certificate is awarded. If the forest management is not fully compliant, preconditions are noted which must be fulfilled before the FSC certificate can be awarded. If minor non-compliances are noted, the certificate can be issued with conditions that have to be met within a clearly determined time frame. Once certification is awarded, FSC-accredited certification bodies audit each FSC certificate at least once a year. If during these audits the certification body finds that a company has non-compliances with FSC requirements, corrective action requests are issued and the company is required to make the prescribed changes within a given time frame or lose its FSC certificate, depending on the seriousness of the infringement. The timeline can go from 1 year for minor administrative infringements to immediate action for major infringements. Chain of custody certification. The FSC chain of custody system allows the tracking of FSC-certified material from the forest to the consumer. It is a method by which companies can show the commitment to the environment and responsible forest management. Only companies that have FSC chain of custody certification are allowed to use the FSC trademarks and labels to promote the products. The FSC label therefore provides a link between responsible production and responsible consumption and helps the consumer to make socially and environmentally responsible buying decisions. Once a forest is certified, it is important to be able to trace the products that come from it throughout the supply chain to ensure that any claims on the origin of the product are credible and verifiable. FSC chain of custody certification is a voluntary process. It is a tracking system that allows manufacturers and traders to demonstrate that timber comes from a forest that is responsibly managed in accordance with the FSCP and AMP-C. It tracks the flow of certified wood through the supply chain and across borders through each successive stage, including processing, transformation and manufacturing, all the way to the final product. It is up to a company to initiate the certification process by requesting the services of an independent certification body to inspect its internal tracking procedures. Only FSC-accredited certification bodies can evaluate, monitor and certify companies to FSC standards. Companies committing to FSC include home improvement DIY companies, publishers and retailers, amongst many others. All operations that want to produce an FSC-certified product or want to make corresponding sales claims must comply with FSC's international standards for chain of custody. An operation must specify the range of products they wish to sell as FSC certified and promote with the FSC trademark. The certification body inspects the operation to ensure that controls are in place to identify eligible sources for the specified product range and to prevent certified and recycled material from mixing with material from unacceptable sources. If an operation complies with FSC standards, the company is issued an FSC chain of custody certificate. Major failure to comply with the standard will normally disqualify the candidate from certification and lead to decertification. Controlled wood certification. The FSC mixed label was introduced in 2004. It allows manufacturers to mix FSC-certified material with uncertified materials in FSC-labeled products. Under controlled conditions, it aims to avoid the use of wood products from unacceptable sources in FSC-labeled products. Unacceptable sources include illegally harvested wood, wood harvested in violation of traditional and civil rights, wood harvested in HCV forests, and wood harvested from areas where genetically modified trees are planted. Accreditation. To maintain independence between the standards it sets and the operations seeking certification of both kinds, FSC does not conduct certification audits itself. FSC has developed rigorous procedures and standards to evaluate whether organizations of certifiers can provide independent and competent evaluation services. This process is known as accreditation. A potential certification body must gain FSC accreditation to be able to evaluate, monitor and certify companies to FSC standards. To become FSC accredited, certifiers have to comply with an extensive set of rules and procedures which are verified by ISO Accreditation Services International GmbH TAN, International Third-Party Accreditation Body, which also serves as sole accreditation body for other sustainability standards such as MSC and RSPO. This includes an office audit and the witnessing of one or more trial audits in the field. ASI monitors accredited certification bodies to ensure the appropriateness of their operations can be continuously guaranteed. To control the continued implementation of FSC rules and procedures, every year ASI conducts at least one office and one field assessment for each FSC accredited certification body. The exact number and distribution of ASI assessments takes a number of complex factors into account, and the number of FSC certificates handled by an accredited certification body, and is meant to ensure that the certification services delivered by the certifier meet the requirements of the FSC. Some summaries of ASI surveillance audits are publicly available on the ASI website. If an FSC accredited certification body is found to not fully comply with FSC rules and procedures, corrective action requests are raised. Facts and figures: in September 2012, some 165 million hectares were certified to FSC's principles and criteria in 80 countries. Around 24,000 FSC chain of custody certificates were active in 107 countries. The FSC website has statistics on regional distributions, ownership and forest type, and numbers of FSC certificates representing all valid forest management and chain of custody certificates. Costs: the expenses for successful forest management certification typically are divided into costs for an enhancement of sustainability, costs for audits, and secondary costs. FSC Friday. FSC Friday is a once-a-year event dedicated to the celebration of forests around the globe, and the promotion of responsible forest management worldwide. The first International FSC Friday took place in Bonn on the 25th of September 2009. On FSC Friday, people are invited to investigate what's in the shopping basket and look for the FSC logo. Events related to FSC Friday take place around the world, with companies and supporters promoting the FSC logo and what it stands for. FSC Friday in 2010 took place on the 24th of September and the following week. Events took place at FSC certified forests, schools, universities and community centers around the world, including the United Kingdom, Austria, South Africa, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, France, India, Wales, Switzerland and Singapore.